guys, my name is Trinity, and if you are here to see my Christmas book haul. I got quite a few gifts for Christmas, and I did Secret Santa over on Andrew's Wizardly Reads channel, and I got a gift from there. I did hear the person who got me actually has another gift on the way for me, but I haven't received it yet. But I have a little bit of a big haul, mainly because I haven't been filming lately. And if you guys are wondering what's up with that, just have needed a reset lately. I haven't really been wanting to read, been kind of slumpy doing SPSFC, so I'm forcing myself to read through a slump, and it's really messing with my head. But yeah, I have some books to show you that I got for Christmas. Now, we're going to start with what my mom got me. And a book that has been on my TBR since I read Velocity Weapon and the Protectorate series is Steal the Sky by Megan E. O'Keefe. So this is actually Megan E. O'Keefe's first series that she wrote. And this is fantasy. So I'm very excited to see like what Megan E. O'Keefe does with this. And I think this is sci fantasy, if I'm correct, because I've heard this compared to Firefly before, and that just makes me very excited. Very excited for it. Steal an airship and get out of town. Easy, right? Of course it would be if the airship didn't belong to a bloodthirsty Commodore in the middle of a coup. That is the tagline for this, and yeah, it sounds completely up my alley. And then I got the third book in the Fetch Phillips series by Luke Arnold. I have the first two. I'm very excited to get started in this series within the new year, and I hope I like it. I know Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative really enjoyed it, and we have similar reading tastes, so I'm trusting her opinion of these, and I've purchased the whole series. So, and by the way, I say my mom got these for me. She got me a gift card, and so I went and purchased them myself, but the gift card came from her. Next, I picked up one that just sounded good. I found it at the Buy Sell Trade. It says The Nyx Series, Book 1, Fury of a Phoenix by Shannon Meyer. Now, I did a thing on Twitter where I asked for indie or self-pub sci-fi, fantasy, sci-fantasy female authors. Oh lordy, go check that out if you have not yet, because I got hit with a ton of recommendations. And I know that this one came up on the recommendations list at least once. I don't know if it came up multiple times, but I did remember seeing it. But Shannon Meyer, Fury of a Phoenix, I thought this sounded like it was going to be pretty good. It is urban fantasy, which I haven't read a whole lot of lately, but I'm thinking it still sounds pretty good. It says, an electric and gritty first in the series from an indomitable Shannon Meyer. I found myself laughing and cheering for the sharp-tongued, edgy Phoenix as she hunted those who destroyed her world. I knew the sins of my past would call to collect what was left of my soul. If I'd known the price I'd pay, I would have sacrificed more to stay hidden from the magic. So yeah, I know that this is, like I said, urban fantasy. I know it has assassins, and I know we are dealing with someone who is trying to escape past mistakes. That's about all I know, but it sounded really good, and I love the cover. So I haven't read, like I said, much urban fantasy, but there's two so far here on the list that I'm prepared to tackle. And then I've kind of felt like a very bad vampire fan for not having read Fledgling yet. This is one of the epitome vampire stories by Octavia E. Butler. And yeah, I just haven't read it yet. I think this is sci-fantasy as well. Like, I think there's a sci-fi element to this. An unflinching parable about race, identity, and science, a layered family saga that embraces the bloodthirsty basics of a vampire thriller. But yeah, how can I be a vampire fan and not have read Fledgling yet? All right, and a book I keep seeing everywhere and sounds so good. And then, you know, these next two, I'm gonna have to show off the maps. Look at that, look at that. Beautiful map. Detailed and mysterious, a place to explore and relish, highly recommend. Empire of Exiles by Erin M. Evans. Now, again, everybody that has read this has been really enjoying it, and so I wanted to give it a go. But it says, 23 years ago, a duke with a grudge led a ruthless coup against his empire, killing thousands. He failed. The duke was executed, a terrifyingly powerful sorcerer was imprisoned, and an unwilling princess disappeared. The empire moved on. Now Quill, an apprentice scribe, arrives in the capital city believing he's on a simple errand for another pompous noble. Fetch ancient artifacts from magical imperial archives, but these artifacts are the instruments of revolution, the banners under which the Duke led his coup. And the city has just been shaken by a brutal murder that looks to be caused by a weapon not seen since those dark days of rebellion. So fantasy with a mystery at the heart of it, that sounds like it's going to be completely up my alley. Looking forward to this quite a bit. And then Sarah, she was part of our Discord for a long time, and when she was talking about this book while editing it. Of course, we didn't find out what book it was until she was able to actually talk about the book. But she had said multiple times that this was going to be a book we all had to pick up, and that is The Art of Prophecy by Wesley Chu. Now, from what I understand about this, it is epic fantasy and has like a martial arts magic based system, and also really great humor. And then I've got to show you the map. Look at that full color map. But I've heard that this kind of reads in the manga style, the Japanese way of telling a story. Pretty excited about it. Plus, it's a dang gorgeous book. That is a dang gorgeous book. Okay, then for the ones that my mom actually bought for me, she bought A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. Now, this was on my Amazon wishlist, so it is a book that I wanted. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling. I've been wanting to get into more fantasy romance lately. This I had added to the list because I've heard of quite a few people talk about it. But I'm looking forward to delving into more and actually finding some that have a really good fantasy story. Like, I love romance, but I want a story to go with it outside of the romance. And I've heard this is a good option. I've also heard that this is quite high on the spice level too. Now for a book that has been on my wish list for quite some time. Hadn't purchased it yet, and my mom picked it up for me. It is Broken Sky by Morgan K. Bell. So yes, I'm totally sold on this cover. And if you guys don't know, Draconis Memoria is one of my favorite series of all time. I love the steampunk element to Draconis. And so anytime I see steampunk on a cover, which Steal This Guy, again, like, I always want to invest. And this one is another that is in that vein. Dorian Valmont is the sorriest excuse for an aeronaut the crew of Skyship Phoenix has ever seen, forced to flee his home to protect his magical inheritance from the machinations of his ambitious stepfather. Awkward misfit Dorian finds himself poorly suited to the rigors of life in the sky. But when an exiled dragon finds him, injured and desperate for help, Dorian learns it's not enough to merely run away. Dorian must learn to fight back. So steampunk dragons. Again, Draconis. I love all of these that remind me of Draconis. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to be picking this one up. And when my mom handed me my present, I was like, why is this so heavy? And then when I opened it, I very quickly found out she bought me the complete works of H.P. Lovecraft. She knows how much I absolutely love Gothic fiction, and H.P. Lovecraft is like the epitome of Gothic fiction. And I'm very excited. I have read The Call of Cthulhu and The Shadow over Innsmouth, but I haven't read the rest of these, so I'm actually pretty excited about this. But this thing is the heaviest book I've ever held in my life. It is huge. Okay, and over on the Wizardly Reads Discord, my Secret Santa, book reading, coffee drinking, Mari, I hope I said her name right. She got me Blood Heir. Now, I have been really looking forward to this one. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It says, a princess with a deadly gift, a con man with no past and no future, an empire spiraling into chaos. It's time to choose a side. If I remember correctly, and by the art here, I do believe this is another desert fantasy. And I have very much been enjoying those, but I've heard so many good things about this book that I'm very excited to get into it. Okay, and now we are back to the regularly scheduled book haul. And I have my Book of the Month books next. Now, Book of the Month, when you have been a subscriber for a certain amount of time, they send you a free Book of the Year book. And so I partook in that and got a free Book of the Year book, and I'll show that to you when we get there. But the ones I chose were The Circus Train by Amita Parikh, A War, A Forbidden Love, One Girl's Survival. So I have been wanting to read more historical fiction, and this was the historical fiction option that they had this month. Of course, there's others I could have chose from the backlist, but this one actually sounded pretty good. So I've read a lot of stuff that kind of revolves around World War II and the Nazis and everything like that. However, this one is about a girl who grows up in a circus and ends up in a wheelchair after contracting polio. And so I thought I would give this one a shot because even though it's World War II and we've kind of been inundated with all of that in historical fiction and it's overdone and really, really needs to, people need to find a different thing to write about, I thought this sounded actually pretty good and I wanted to give it a try. And then I picked up the second book, A Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross from Book of the Month. I have A River Enchanted right here. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard such good things that I wanted to go ahead and pick this one up since it's a duology and I would have the completed duology. Now for the one that won Book of the Year, which has a lovely Book of the Year sticker on it. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. What I know of this one is that it is about a couple of friends who develop a video game. And this follows them as they develop the video game and kind of what happens to their friendship after the game becomes famous. People start to buy into it after they gain wealth and popularity, and kind of just what happens to friendship when all of these other things start to interfere. And I thought it sounded like something I would really like to give a go because I really want to get outside of fantasy. Like I'm not going to quit reading fantasy, but I want to pick up a few books that are outside of my chosen genre just because I have a tendency to get bogged down when I'm only reading one genre. And for the past couple years, I've stuck to fantasy pretty hard. The rest of these will be from the Buy Sell Trade. I picked up Ursula K. Le Guin, Worlds of Exile and Illusion, 3 complete novels of the Hanish series, City of Illusions, Planet of Exile, Rokannon's World. And I figured I'd go ahead and give Ursula K. Le Guin a go. I'm not 100% sure that she's going to be the author for me. I know that she is touted as one of the best in sci-fi, but I don't know. I haven't read her myself, and I haven't even attempted to read her myself. So I'm very curious to find out if she's going to be an author that I enjoy. All right, an author that I have followed on Twitter, watched their journey as they wrote their first book and completed a second novel. Now, the first one is a bit of a chunk. It's a little outside my wheelhouse, but when this one was announced, like the premise of it, heard the premise and everything, I was like, oh, okay, well that one sounds great. And he actually offered to send it to me, but because I was in the middle of SPSFC and all of this stuff and trying to not bog myself down, I said no, but then I went ahead and bought it. And that's The Monsters We Feed by Thomas Howard Riley, a Lumina World story. This is manageable. It's completely manageable. The morning before he found the dead body, Jathan Algaven thought he had his whole life just the way he wanted it. He knows his city inside and out and doesn't bother carrying a sword, trusting his wits and his fists well enough to get by, even hustling extra coin by writing out loathsome magi to the law for execution. He and his sister Lyra have watched out for each other ever since the day they were orphaned by a bloodthirsty rogue sorcerer, and now they finally have steady work, good friends, and the freedom to spend every night laughing at the bottom of a bottle. But nothing lasts forever. When he stumbles across a brutal murder, Jathan discovers a strange crystal lens that opens his eyes to an invisible world of magic and terror lurking just beneath the surface of his own, making him question everything he thought he knew. Yes, this definitely sounds up my alley, and I'm so excited to get into it. Also, pardon me if my voice starts to crack. I have been sick. That's another reason I haven't been recording lately, and my voice is starting to go, and we've got a little ways to go. Okay, The Reincarnationist Papers. Now, this is one that I have seen a lot of people talk about, and it's kind of divisive. Like, you kind of either love it or hate it, and it has kind of a Matrix feel to it. Infinite, I guess, was the movie that was based off of this book, but I wanted to go ahead and read it myself. I have not watched Infinite, and I know very little outside of what I just told you. But it says, discovered as 3 notebooks in an antique store in Rome at the turn of the millennium, The Reincarnationist Papers offers a tantalizing glimpse into the Cognomena, a secret society of people who possess total recall of their past lives. This is for fans of The Matrix and Memento, a twisty, exciting adventure. But that's what I'd heard about it, is that there's a lot of twists and turns in here that I would probably find interesting. So a series I found at the buy sell trade, I found a book 2 and book 3, of course, because why would I find book 1 at the buy sell trade? This is by Rachel Dune. And I don't have book 1 to give you guys a synopsis. However, I know that Michael R. Fletcher said that this is grimdark at its finest, and that has excited me. A must-have for fans of dark fantasy. Michael R. Fletcher, right there. And so I'm very excited to get into it. The first one is In the Shadow of the Gods. And then this is book 2 and 3, I believe. Yes, 2 and 3. But dark fantasy, female characters, assassins, all sorts of lovely things that I like. Okay, and another book that has been compared to Firefly. We have A Big Ship at the Edge of the Universe by Alex White. If you guys saw, I didn't like August Keatco, and the only reason I didn't like August Keatco was the main characters were not people I enjoyed reading from. And so with this being compared to Firefly and being a little more on the snarky side as opposed to the whiny side, I have a feeling I will like this a lot more, especially since I liked Alex White's writing outside of those main characters. Okay. And then I got the first and a second in another series by Harper Voyager. This is Jennifer S. Stepp's Capture the Crown and Tear Down the Throne. Again, I'm on a mission to find fantasy romance that has a good fantasy story. So this is another that I'm on the path to seeing if I can find one. But I've heard that this has really good action. Amanda Bouchette. Oh. Okay. Gemma Ripley has a reputation for being a pampered princess who's more interested in pretty gowns, sparkly jewelry, and other frivolous things than in learning how to rule the kingdom of Andvari. But her carefully crafted persona is just an act to hide the fact that she's a powerful mind magier, and a spy. Gemma is undercover, trying to figure out who is stealing large amounts of tearstone from one of the Ripley royal family mines when she encounters Prince Leonidas. Okay, y'all, with those fantasy names, just cut it out. That's all I have to say. We don't need to be confused. They can be Bill and Tom. It's fine. Her mortal enemy. Gemma tries to steer clear of the handsome prince, but when she finds herself behind enemy lines, she reluctantly joins forces with Leonidas. Also coming to Gemma's aid is Grimly, her beloved gargoyle. So, those sound like they could be pretty fun. And again, like I said, I am on a mission to find a fantasy romance that has a good fantasy story. Now, these I found at the buy sell trade, and I just thought they sounded really good. These are not anything I've heard about, but I saw this. Philip writes dark fantasy mostly with an aura of heroic fantasy, aiming to awe far more than to frighten and succeeding awesomely. Holly Phillips. So I bought In the Palace of Repose and At the Edge of Waking. These are short stories. And like you guys know, I have been trying to collect short stories because a goal for me in 2023 is to pick up more short stories or to have an ongoing book of short stories that I am reading. And I am going to add these to the list of that. Dark fantasy short stories. Next we have Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. Now, don't be fooled by the cover because this says, Ocean's 11 meets The Farewell in Portrait of a Thief, a lush lyrical heist novel inspired by a true story of Chinese art vanishing from Western museums, about dysphoria, the colonization of art, and the complexity of the Chinese-American identity. So this sounds like a literary mystery. Kind of excited about that. And I wanted to give it a go. I've never read anything by Grace D. Lee. I don't know if this is their debut novel or not, but after hearing the description of this book, I really, really wanted to read it. Okay, we're down to the final three. So I got Warrior of the Wild. I am kind of stepping away from YA, but I've heard nothing but great things about this, and it's about Vikings, so of course I'm gonna give it a try. And if you don't know, this is Trisha Levensetter. She wrote Daughter of the Pirate King, which is a very well-loved YA, and It says, I must have dozed at some point because consciousness suddenly jolts through me. My eyes are still closed, but heat pelts into my face from the sun. No, not the sun. The sun doesn't smell of blood and rot. I hold perfectly still except for my hands, which starts my lap for my axe. Bless the goddess, it's still there. I crack open one eye, an unhinged Zicken mouth is inches from my face, tasting my breath. The tongue lolls out and touches my skin. A cackle so loud it hurts my ears unleashes from its mouth. Fear floods through all my limbs, and I realize even then I don't have any answers. Even if I don't know where to go or what to do, I know one thing. I don't want to die. My instincts kick in as quickly as I can. I raise my axe and press the shaft between those gaping jaws. Which I realize doesn't tell you much about the book, but it gives you a little bit of a blip of Trisha Levensetter's writing, which I do think is quite captivating. All right, 2 more. I am not going to talk about this one because I have The Lost Queen sitting right down there unread. This is the 2nd book, and I just went ahead and picked it up because it's a series I plan to read in 2023. And then this one. I don't even know what made me pick this up, other than I love like Mass Effect. I really love military style books, military fantasy, and I just was very intrigued. So this is The Midnight Front, a dark arts novel by David Mack. And it says, the epic first novel in the dark arts series. On the eve of World War II, Nazi sorcerers come gunning for Cade but kill his family instead. His one path to vengeance is to become an apprentice of the Midnight Front, the Allies' top secret magical warfare program, and become a sorcerer himself. Unsure who will kill him first, his allies, his enemies, or the demons he has to use to wield the magic. Cade fights his way through occupied Europe and enemy lines, but he learns too late the true price of revenge will be more terrible than just the loss of his soul, and there's no task harder than doing good with a power born of ultimate evil. It sounds like it could be fantastic. It sounds like it could be awful, but I need to know. I need to know. Like modern military and fantasy. I just need to know. All right, that is it for my video today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things. Don't forget I have a Patreon, and I would love if you guys subscribe to me there as well. And have a great day. Bye.